Hey, this is Roger Moret from Agnostic Front, and you're watching Aftershock TV.
All right, so a guy we talk about, we talk about this band a lot. Well, he's not with the band anymore, but we love him. He's my favorite vocalist of all time, Burton C. Bell.
Yes.
As we know, he's really full-fledged doing the solo stuff, man. I mean, he played a show last month down in San Diego,
right?
Which was great. He's obviously, doing a mixture of, they're not just playing Fear Factory songs and Ascension of the Watchers, but he's also playing, City of Fire and I think GZR songs and everything. So I would love to check his live solo show out. I wish he goes on tour, but I also think he's just playing it really smart right now, the way he's rolling everything out. He's really doing really, I think, a good job with that. But so he says now when it comes to new music, so he's got 2, I believe, tracks out there now. He's dropped 2 new singles over the last few months. He says now he's adopting the hip-hop model strategy of releasing singles with the whole less is more, supply demand sort of thing. And now the question is, can this or does this work? We know it works for hip-hop, but is this going to work for rock and metal artists? What do you think? Is that a good strategy for a guy like Burton to do?
I'm never for it. Not just Burton, just in general. Hip-hop, the thing with hip-hop is hip-hop doesn't really sell albums. They just don't. Exactly. It's a singles-based business.
Yeah.
It's not a mood inducer. It's just a minute inducer, for lack of a better term. Metal especially has always been something where, I mean, how many times have you said, well, I got this important interview to do today, so you find that album to get yourself in that mindset in the car, and you listen to the whole album and you time it out so that when you're pulling up on the interview, you're at the crescendo of that record, so that you go right from that, you set the tone. Singles, and I have said this to damn near every artist I've interviewed, any band that does singles, they're forgotten. And if you release a single that doesn't catch, then your whole career is forgotten.
Totally.
And quite honestly, with Burton, and I love Fear Factory, but I've already forgotten about his solo career because I didn't love the first 2 singles.
Yeah.
And that's pretty damning for somebody that's just trying to get going. And I think I think it would have been better for Burton to release a 5-song EP, give us a real taste. Because right now, I mean, you've listened to the 2 singles. Do you know what he's doing?
No. And that's the thing. Yeah, no, exactly. Listen, man, I'm 100% with you. I say absolutely not is not going to work.
No.
His target audience, let's be honest too, they're metal fans that are 40 and over.
Yes.
Okay. We don't consume music the singles way. We're not, like you said, we're not from the hip hop world. I'm just going to use guys like us, because we are big fans of him, right?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I don't listen, like you said, you release a single. Okay. I understand. Look, I understand when you release an album, it's quickly forgotten. Okay. Yeah. But if you release a single, it's even more quickly forgotten. An album, at least, look, you listen to an album, if you've got 2 or 3 real, songs that really grab you, people are gonna keep going back and listen to those songs on the album. If you're putting out a single, like I'm gonna be honest with you, his first single, I didn't love it. It was okay.
Yeah.
It was more industrial. Really, was no guitar in it. It wasn't really a rock song. It was more, like I said, electronic song. So it wasn't my style. I like it. I like it electronic, but it needs to have some rock and metal in it for me. I forgot about the song. I could care less about it, And this is the problem. Listen, the artists who are in that mid to later age bracket that he is, okay. If your audience is the same, obviously, age group, which most of them are, okay, we're always going to be album oriented. There's nothing you could do to change that at this point in our lives. We're not going to all of a sudden change our listening habits to be like, you know what, fuck these albums, man. I'm just about the singles now. Never. That's not a rock and metal fan. We don't. Rock and metal is all about albums, and even if they're not selling, people still want to see albums. And like you said, at the very least, an EP
Yeah.
To do this one single here, one single there, to me, those are for artists that aren't that serious about their career.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the way I look at it. You know, and just so Fear Factory fans, that's his core audience.
Yeah.
They grew up listening to albums. They're not going to sit there. You know, and like I said, like I was saying, I understand the dilemma. It's got to be infuriating as a musician
Oh, yeah.
to put out and work on an album and be like, oh, it's forgotten so fast. But look, as we were saying, the success of rock and metal musicians has never been based on singles. You know, like you said, that's sure been the hip hop model. And I know that's the most maybe cost effective model, which could be one of the reasons why he's doing it as well. But they're even more useless and forgotten. And yeah, I think it's a bad move. Like I said, I know his music is more, like you said, it's going to be, I think, more towards his solo stuff, less metal and more towards the new wave electronic, you know, industrial
the problem is
rock.
that you don't know. Two singles in and you don't know. You don't. Exactly. And let's be honest, rock fans are not known for their patience in figuring out what their guys are going to do.
Good point. Yeah.
You know, a rock fan wants to hear it and say, "Yep, I'm in."
Yeah. So like if you look at industrial and you know electronic music, if you look at their that you know fandom and that you know market or target, whatever you want to call it, right? I mean, are you good at this age? You know, you're in the 50s.
Yeah.
Now, people in that world, they don't really know Burton Bell. Who knows Burton Bell? The people in the metal world.
In the
so
40s,
So I know he's trying to, you know, you're trying to pick off some fans of that music to come, and you will, of course, get some. But to think you're gonna, you know, at this point in your life, you're gonna go into this industrial world, and everyone's gonna be like, "Oh, that's the guy from Fear Factory." No, because people who usually listen to that music aren't listening to Fear Factory, not listening to metal. So I just think, you know, it's more important ever than now. You've got to know who your audience is, an artist. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter what your management is. You got to know what your audience is. I think this is just a bad move. I do.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good move either. I mean, it's clear that Burton wants to be Trent Reznor. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, that's who he wants to be.
Sure.
But there's a distinct difference. Bert's known for his voice. Reznor was known for his technical.
Yes, his musicianship.
There's a very, very big difference, and you're not going to cross into that world. You know, you're going to stay in the lower tier ministry level, and then you're not bringing the heavy behind it that everybody knows you for. Look, this is probably another bad endorsement for this as well, but I'm going to say it. What if you just plain missed the announcement the day that the single came out?
Yeah, you're right.
It's gone.
It's gone.
At least with an album, if there's 5 songs out there, it might sneak up into a playlist or something.
Yeah.
One song, I listen to playlists every day on either YouTube Music or Spotify every day. I'm yet to be fed one of these 2 new Burton Bell songs. It's not happened.
Well, yeah, and he talks about the supply and demand thing. Is that even a thing really in music anymore? I mean, do people even know what the demand is for their shit anymore?
No.
You know, this because you're not selling units. It's not like you could easily say, well, okay, my last album, you know, sold this many units, so I can expect around the same. I mean, you don't know. It's such a different ball game.
Well, it's dumb to say supply and demand. The supply is endless. The demand is not there at all.
Exactly. Yeah,
I mean, come on, it's
true.
digital.
That's true. I know.
There's no limit to the supply of hearing this song. What there isn't is demand. And why is there no demand? Because he's marketing it poorly.
Well, and also look, and again, the reason why I feel like you should put an album out is, and I've been saying this. If your album is really good, people will know about it and they will buy it. You know, people who are out there going, you know, I'm really just putting out new music to tour and sell a product. Yeah. Look, that can only work for a short term. If you're looking at that as a long term, how is that going to affect your legacy as an artist or a band? If you keep churning out, you know, either singles or records that really have all filler and maybe 1 to 2 good songs tops, that's not a sustainable model.
No, not at all.
You know, if everything's sounding the same, you'll have to go away and have another outlet. And like I said, I mean, which is not a bad thing. If I'm a guy like Burton, okay, look, I'm going to do my solo stuff, but I also, you know, I think a guy like this is like, look, if he really wants to get into that, I know where his heart is. It's not in rock and metal. It's in the, you know, new wave electronic
real music. Yeah.
Yeah. He loves that stuff. That's been his thing. I get it. And I think he feels comfortable. That's the world he wants to be in. That's great. But you've got to appease your core audience, man.
Yeah.
You've got to play some metal. You know, so if these singles he's going to keep churning out are just like the first one, you know, I mean, people will probably still go see him if he's going to play Fear Factory. But if you go and you go see Burton and he's only going to play 2 or 3 Fear Factory songs, and he's playing all obscure stuff from people that maybe don't know City of Fire and some of his more obscure stuff, Ascension of the Watchers, that's not going to last, man. You know,
But
it's
see,
not.
And here's the real problem. And this is where Bert has to do some soul searching. Is it that people don't know it, or is it people passed on it?
Well, they don't want it. Exactly.
That's kind of, I think, Ascension of the Watchers. I personally dig it.
Yeah.
But even as somebody that personally digs it, do I go back and listen to it? No.
Yeah, it's like an occasional
Once in a while
thing. Exactly. Yeah.
Once in a while, I'll listen to it, and I'm not going to lie, I'll listen to 3 songs, and I pop on Demanufacture. You know,
exactly.
That's
Get you warmed
exactly
up.
what happens.
Yeah, totally. Yep. No, it's a good point.
You know, I mean, embrace your career, bro. You've had a career that people still want to support. Embrace it.
Yeah.
In Bert's case, and I know it's a lot of technical stuff, and we could get into or not technical, but personal stuff. And I know we could get into a whole Dino versus Burton thing or whatever. Sure. I think the biggest mistake Bert ever did was not embracing that last record.
That last record. I agree. Well, he
didn't want to be part of that anymore.
Which is like, dude, it was a solid record, and that's still part of your legacy.
Yeah.
I understand he wanted to move on from it. You know, we've heard the stories, and it sounded like it was a real shitty experience for this guy. Yeah, for this guy especially, because he lost everything. And so because of that, I get it. But I still think even a guy like this, I mean, if he wants to put together an occasional show in LA or whatever and do it, it'll probably do well selling wise, but you're not going to make any money. He's a guy that's got to do, listen, he's either got to do 2 things. He's got to either, if you're going to go out as Burton Bell, okay, then that could be sort of your obscure, you know, whatever, you know, guy, you want to play all this other stuff. But then you need to have something that's going to appease those Fear Factory fans. Look, I'm going to use a good example, I think, as a guy who's really starting to figure that out. Trevor Church, the guy from Haunt. Now, he started his career with the band Beastmaker, real doomy Sabbath, right, band. He realized after a few albums, okay, I'm kind of running out of stuff here, right? I mean, and he deliberately was playing to the genre itself, to the doom genre. He wanted his that band to sound like a Sabbath-y clone. I mean, purposely.
Right.
Okay. After a while, though, right? Creatively, it's gonna get stale. So he moved on and did something completely different with Haunt. Now, and he's done that for the last 6 or 7 years. Again, he's putting out tons of music, an album a year at least, or whatever. And now he understands, okay, this might be starting to get stale from a creative standpoint. Let me go back. And I've got my other outlet now, a Beastmaker. I can go back to this. I've got a catalog already. I've got an entity. I've now got 2 entities that I can go back and forth with. With. It's great creative wise because it doesn't get stale. And you're not just boxed into one thing. And I think that's the thing with Bert is if he's gonna be, I think, a good solo artist and move on from Fear Factory and be successful. I think if he just lumps everything into this one Burton Bell and we're gonna put everything together. No, people want to hear Fear Factory and metal. Well, that's your history. You got GZR City Fire. That's all metal. You've got to placate to that audience. And if you want to get into the other world, I know that you love, you can do that, but it's got to be more subtle, and you got to have 2. I mean, you got to have 2 outlets.
And if you're going to do that, and this is the other place that I think Bert is just putting a toe in the water instead of figuring it out. If you don't want to play metal, then you can't play shows with metal bands.
Agreed.
I mean, the show that he did was with Skin Lab and God Forbid.
I know. Yeah.
Okay. If you don't want to be metal, you shouldn't be on that bill.
Agreed.
And I get it. I work with Skin Lab. That's how I know that.
Sure.
And Lord knows they were thrilled to be doing a show with Bert.
Oh, of course.
They were absolutely thrilled to be doing it. But from the other side of it, Bert's out there saying, I want to do electronic music, and I don't want it to be that heavy, and I want it to be, more atmospheric and all the buzzwords. Well, you know what? I don't think of any of those buzzwords when I'm seeing God Forbid play or Skin Lab.
No.
And if he's thinking of brutality.
Exactly. And if he is thinking about supply to demand, well, the demand is they want to hear that stuff. No one's demanding to hear Ascension of the Watchers and any of the atmospheric stuff.
Yes.
They're demanding the metal, like you said. Great point. Then don't play with metal artists. Don't play with God Forbid in Skin Lab. I mean, that people are going there because when they see Burton Bell, they're thinking, "Oh, you're going to play all the Fear Factory hits. Great." You've got to do that. I mean, if it might not be what he wants to do in here, but if he's talking about demand and supply, the supply will come if you meet the demand of
Yeah.
the metal music, which is what people want to hear you.
Yeah, if you don't want to do the metal stuff, you want to do the more electronic stuff, then hook up with the guys from Stabbing Westward and be the opener for them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and the thing is, this guy just got elected into what? The Metal Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
You saw that, right?
Yeah.
He's part of that whole thing. So again, you are a metal musician, whether you like it or not. That is your legacy, and you've got to respect that, and really respect that demand. You know, there is no demand from new wave and industrial music for new Burton Bell stuff. There isn't.
No,
it's coming it's coming from the metal audience,
and we love them. So it's not like we're picking because we don't love them.
We want to see him succeed, and that's why we're talking about this.
We would love to see Burt. Honestly, I think we would both love to see Burt come back and do his own version of Fear Factory.
Absolutely,
it doesn't have to be called Fear Factory, but.
No, man. I mean, we did that thing on GZR, dude, and I'll tell you, when I listen to that stuff, it's like I would love for him to play with maybe more of a groovier, slowed down rock metal band. That would be fun to listen to.
That'd be great.
Yeah, for the speed, I think more these days too. Yeah.
Well, we'll see what he does.
Oh yeah.
I had an interest in music always.
It's always kind of been around me some way, shape, or form.
5 minutes sitting on a drum set, man, change your life.
This is the same black guitar that Marty McFly plays in Back to the Future.
I love the feeling I get in front of the freaking full stack here, just the vibration, there's something to it.
I'm lucky because I do have a little bit of a tap into the Fu Manchu lore, into the Nebula lore.
In order to keep things going, you kind of have to like start playing the game a little bit, like the business game.
Everybody has to get through a day-to-day, and how do you exist and how do you get by?
As far as getting people to commit to bands, it's tough to keep a lot together these days, for sure.
Still sleeping on people's floor, that's still a reality.
Probably also playing with some of the best people I've ever played with. The creative juices don't stop. It just keeps going.
For me, it's just finding a balance of how much time I'm spending with my family versus how much time I'm spending working.
It's this validation that what you're doing actually has merit.
Obviously, we're a little long in the tooth, and we've been doing this for a minute, and now we can kind of do what we want. We don't need a record company. I'll do it myself. I'll do it the way I want to.
Just always be cool. Just be respectful. Those are your people. They're connecting to you on some level, even if they don't look like you.
It's got to happen, or else I'll go crazy. Go crazy one way or another. I might as well, not go crazy if I can play music.
Maybe one day I'll have a Porsche, but until that day, I'll drive a Chevy.
There you go.
All right.